The future of Earth is cooked, for real. The whole planet turns into a giant popsicle. Cities freeze. Everywhere is a giant freezer. And boom, welcome to the new ice age. But bro, Gavin? My guy tries to keep his cheating ex alive in that nightmare, gives her his last bit of food, yet that bitch still lets him die in the snow. Skin and bones, alone. But just when he thinks it's game over, he wakes up years earlier in a sunny cafeteria, face in a puddle of drool like nothing ever happened. Yup, he regressed. Plot twist of the century. Now Gavin is back with every brutal memory of the frozen hell he crawled through, and he is finished being everyone's punching bag. When the same bitch pops up trying to ruin his day again, he switches gears fast. He flips fate like a table, dodges every backstab, stocks supplies like a maniac prepping for doomsday, and trolls anyone dumb enough to cross him. This smart kid sells his house, hustles cash from every direction, and even drags his best bro into schemes to sell his kidney that would make a loan shark cry. Because he is the only one who knows what is coming. The Ice Age is on the way, the countdown has started, and Gavin is rewriting the whole script before the world freezes over again. So, without further ado, let's diving into the story. It was a super sunny day, and all the students were walking around the campus, ready for class or whatever. Everybody looked pretty chill. Inside the cafeteria, things were loud and busy. But then, there was this guy named Gavin Clark. He did not look normal at all. He was slumped over a table, totally asleep. Someone come over with 2 trays of food. Gavin's friend, Yaniel Parker, was the one coming. He thought Gavin must be super tired, maybe because Gavin had been up late talking to Xenia Scott again. Yaniel even checked Gavin's forehead, just in case he was sick. Dude was drooling too. You could tell he was out cold. Suddenly, Gavin started waking up. He smelled the food and got super excited. He looked so surprised and kind of insane when he realized there was real food right in front of him. Then, he yelled and acted like this was the best food ever in the history of food. He smacked the table and started shoving chicken and rice in his face like a total maniac. Other students saw it and looked kind of freaked out. Yaniel told Gavin to chill out and not to choke, but Gavin did not listen at all. In fact, he even started eating his friend's food. Yaniel was not happy, bro. He almost exploded and asked Gavin what the heck he was doing, since now he had nothing to eat. After Gavin absolutely destroyed all the food, he leaned back. His belly was sticking out like a balloon, and he looked dazed but also weirdly happy. Inside, Gavin thought about how he was really back, that he had been reborn. Can you believe it? Reborn. Yaniel thought Gavin was being crazy. He asked if his friend was full now and said that maybe he was some kind of starving ghost in his past life, because normal dudes do not eat like that. He was kind of mad that Gavin had eaten all his food too. Gavin, with a little smile, said that he really was a reincarnated starving ghost. He remembered dying in a freezing cold apocalypse because he had no food. Dude, that sounded rough. Yaniel got even more worried. He wondered what happened. Did Gavin's girlfriend Xenia dump him or something? Yaniel really did not trust her. Anyway, Gavin suddenly became very serious and patted Yaniel on the shoulder. He seemed almost shocked to see Yaniel alive, and he was talking about how they could start everything over again. Yaniel thought his crazy friend was being super creepy. Then, Gavin grabbed Yaniel by the shoulders and needed to know the date, the year, the month, the whole thing. His friend was kind of confused, but he told Gavin it was August 8th, 2024. Gavin remembered something terrible, a vision of a city totally frozen over. He told Yaniel that soon the world would enter an insane ice age. In just half a month, he said, there would be a crazy snowstorm for 3 months, and everything would freeze. Temperatures would go down to minus 50 degrees? Dude, minus 50? That was wild. Yaniel just laughed and said Gavin was joking. It was summer, and it was super hot. So of course, it sounded ridiculous that a snowstorm was coming. But Yaniel said that if Gavin was really in trouble, he could help, as long as it was possible, because they were super close friends. Then Gavin dropped the bomb. He said he needed to borrow 1 billion. Yup, 1 billion. Yaniel nearly spit out his drink. He could not believe what he was hearing. Gavin insisted he was serious. This crazy shit? Saying some nonsense again? So Yaniel said there was no way anyone could get 1 billion. Even if he sold his own dad, it would not be enough. Gavin asked how much he could get if he really sold his dad, and Yaniel thought maybe 500 million. But he got mad and asked if his friend was even human. What a bastard child thing, wanted to sell his own father for cash. Suddenly, a couple walked into the cafeteria. The guy was Zach Young, and he acted like a big shot with his arm around Xenia Scott. Yup, that was the same Xenia from before. Zach told her that he got them a private room to eat, And after that, he wanted to take her to a fancy theater and show her something big. Xenia just giggled and said that Zach was naughty and she loved it. These two were totally into each other, and they didn't care who saw. Of course, Gavin and Yaniel saw everything. Yaniel looked mad when he noticed her. He recognized her right away and shouted that it was Xenia Scott. He got seriously angry and said to Gavin that Xenia was cheating on him with Zach, who was some rich dude from a group called Vast Dragon. He reminded Gavin that he did a ton for Xenia, even going broke just to buy her expensive clothes. Now she was going behind his back? Yeah, she is a bitch. Somehow, Xenia saw the guys and looked nervous. She just blurted out a question, asking why Gavin was there, when this bitch didn't even try to hide what she was doing. When Yanel got angry for his friend, Xenia said she didn't owe anyone an explanation. What they saw was what it was. The hell? Anyone, please stop me before I slap this crazy woman. Anyway, Gavin didn't say anything. He looked down, remembering the past. Inside his head, he saw these dark memories, like a mini-movie. He remembered Zach kicking Xenia away in the snow after the world turned into a cold nightmare. Then, he saw himself finding Xenia freezing and sad, and he gave her some blankets and hot food. But in the end, Gavin remembered himself lying dead on the ground, skin and bones, because he'd starved to help Xenia. Dang, his old life was rough. He thought about how Xenia had cheated on him before too, with a different guy. But when things got bad in the apocalypse, that other guy dumped her in a snap. He had been such a fool, taking her back, doing everything for her and starving while she ate. What did he get? A bunch of betrayals. His death from hunger was basically her fault. Yaniel told Gavin there was no point staying. He said that bitch wasn't even pretending to care anymore and that they should forget about her. But Gavin gave this cold smile and said there was no rush. That surprised Yaniel, who just wanted to leave, because for him, being around Xenia was awful. Zach got cocky and started taunting our boy. He told everyone he heard Gavin was a super simp for Xenia, always bothering her like some gross bug. Xenia joined in too, saying that Gavin never did anything for her and all his caring was just for himself. She said he was disgusting, and everything he did was like harassment. Man, she was brutal. Gavin then asked if she was done. Zach sneered and said, "What? You think you can win her back by being pathetic?" Xenia said even if Gavin begged on the floor, she would ignore him, because Zach was her real soulmate now. Yaniel wanted to leave again. He told our protagonist there was no point in getting humiliated even more, but Gavin said he needed 5 more minutes. Yaniel was in total despair and couldn't understand why Gavin cared about Xenia at all, because he thought Gavin was actually a great guy. Zach thought that was hilarious. He told Gavin to go ahead and do whatever tricks he wanted. He even said that if Gavin was entertaining enough, he'd give him a piece of used toilet paper as a reward. I believe these two people just rage bait me at this point. Before Zach could finish his insult, thank God our boy just slapped him across the face, super fast. The sound was so loud that everyone froze. Xenia screamed. Yaniel couldn't believe what he saw. Nobody expected Gavin to fight back. Zach was furious. He shouted that Gavin was dead now and charged at him. But our MC dodged Zach's punch like it was nothing, then kicked him hard in the chest. Zach flew backwards. Yeah, for real. Yaniel was totally amazed. He didn't know Gavin could fight like that. Xenia got scared and worried for Zach, yelling at Gavin. She said Gavin was going to be in deep trouble because Zach was the heir to some giant company. Zach got up, bragged about being a Taekwondo black belt, and tried to attack Gavin again. But Gavin just punched him in the face and knocked him out for real. Hell yeah. This is so satisfying. Gavin looked down at Zach and called him trash. In his mind, he thought about how the apocalypse was awful, but he had learned some cool fighting moves just to survive. So, handling a guy who was just showing off, like Zach, was super easy. Anyway, right after our boy knocked out this trash blonde guy in front of everyone, Yaniel just stared at him with his mouth open. He could not believe how tough his crazy friend had just become. Seriously, since when did he know how to fight like some action movie hero? Meanwhile, Xenia rushed over to Zach, who was knocked out on the floor. She looked up at Gavin, super angry. She called him a barbarian and told him he was crazy for hurting Zach. Then she started making demands, saying he should kneel down and apologize to Zach or else she would never forgive him. Guess what? Gavin did not care at all. He then slapped Xenia right across the face. Dang, that shocked everyone. He let her know that she had no power here. Please, don't wake me from this happy dream. To see a bitch get slapped so hard, my day is completed now. Then, Zach started waking up, but he was super angry. He shouted that he would use all of his money and connections to destroy Gavin, and that taking him down would be easy, like squashing an ant. But when Zach tried to punch again, our MC totally blocked him like it was nothing. Then he hit Zach right in the jaw and knocked him back down again. He grabbed Zach by the jacket and started searching his pockets. Zach started freaking out, asking what our boy was doing. Gavin then pulled out a tiny spray bottle from Zach's inside pocket. He had a sneaky smile and said to himself that he expected to find it. Zach lost it and started yelling for him to give it back, looking really nervous. Our protagonist held the bottle in the air and asked Zach if he felt guilty. He wanted to know how many girls Zach had hurt with it. Zach pretended he didn't know what Gavin was talking about. But as soon as Zach rushed him to grab the bottle, Gavin quickly stepped aside and sprayed the stuff right in Zach's face. Uh-oh. Zach started coughing and sputtering. Then suddenly, he started screaming. His eyes went all bloodshot and wild. Xenia did not know what was happening. She asked Zach if he was okay, but Zach didn't even answer right. He just screamed for everyone to get away from him and totally lost control. And then, dude, it went totally nuts. Zach tackled Xenia to the ground and started ripping at her pink dress, right in front of everyone. She screamed for help, and you could tell things were about to get really bad. But Gavin stayed super calm. He just put his hand on his goat friend's shoulder and said that 5 minutes were up and they should get out of there. Yaniel was freaking out and kept asking what the heck was going on with Zach Young because this was insane. For God's sake, why did this guy suddenly blush looking at that bitch? Gavin then showed him the empty spray bottle. He explained that it was a super strong aphrodisiac. If someone breathed it in, they'd go totally wild and lose all control. He said that Zach had used this nasty stuff on other people before, hurting a lot of girls, so this time he made Zach take a taste of his own medicine. Yanyel started to worry, because this all happened in public, right in the school cafeteria. He wondered if Zach would call the cops on Gavin for revenge, but Gavin just smiled and said not to worry. He explained that Zach had used this thing on so many girls, and some of them had gotten hurt so badly that they ended their lives. There was no way Zach would want anyone to know about it, so there was no way he would go to the police. Plus, as the heir to a huge company, Zach was too proud. Gavin was sure that he would try to get revenge himself, in private. The friend realized that was true. With Zach's ego, he would never tell anyone what really happened. He would just come after Gavin alone. After walking out of the cafeteria drama, Yaniel suddenly got curious and asked Gavin where they were going now. Gavin gave a sneaky smile and told him they were going to sell the house. Dude, that was wild already. So, next thing, they were inside this really bright real estate office. Yaniel looked super worried and tried to stop our protagonist. He reminded him that this was the only house Gavin's parents left him. Was his crazy friend really just going to sell it so easily? But Gavin was like, "Yup, I'm selling it." No hesitation at all. He sat down at a desk and signed the paperwork super fast, not even blinking. Inside, our boy was thinking about why he did it. With all that money, 3.1 million, he needed to buy a ton of supplies before the apocalypse started. That was the only way he could be ready and have a big advantage when the world turned into a frozen nightmare. After the agent handed him the signed papers, Yaniel followed Gavin out. He was still totally confused and worried. He pointed out that house prices were getting higher and higher and there was no need to rush. He just couldn't get what Gavin was thinking. But Gavin only said that they needed to move on to the next stop. Yaniel couldn't keep up and asked what they were doing now. Our boy got super excited and said they were going to spend money. Yeah, the friend probably thought our protagonist had lost his mind. So, they went to this huge supermarket. Gavin walked straight up to the manager and told her he wanted 1,000 bags each of rice, flour, and oil, plus 10,000 cans of every canned food. The manager was stunned, but Gavin said he was sure. Yaniel was just standing there in shock, asking if his friend was stocking up for opening another supermarket or something. Gavin checked with the manager about delivery, and she was excited to help, saying they could do the delivery and the heavy lifting too. All Gavin had to do was give an address. Gavin turned to his friend and asked him about that empty warehouse his family owned in the suburbs. Yaniel admitted they had a warehouse, but he couldn't believe Gavin was going to fill it with all those supplies. Our boy told him that was exactly the plan, and asked for the address so he could keep buying more stuff. While this was going on, 2 girls from their class spotted them in the supermarket. One girl had purple hair and the other had green hair. The purple-haired girl said she recognized Gavin and that she heard he got cheated on by Xenia. The green-haired girl mentioned that the supermarket was fancy and only for people with a membership, and wondered what Gavin was even doing there. They both thought Gavin was too poor to afford anything in a place like this. Over in the electronics section, Gavin started acting totally wild again. He told the workers to give him 5 Alienware computers, plus 10 TVs and 10 game consoles. In his mind, our protagonist thought about how, When the apocalypse came and it was super cold outside, they'd be trapped indoors for ages. So you had to have good entertainment. No way was he going to be bored during the end of the world. The manager was so happy. She told our boy that he was their biggest client of the year. The two girl classmates overheard this and almost fell over from shock. The purple-haired girl realized Gavin just dropped at least 200,000 on computers alone. The green-haired girl saw that all the TVs and game consoles were super expensive too. They just could not figure out how Gavin, who everyone thought was broke, suddenly had so much cash. Our MC kept going, pointing to another part of the store, and ordered all the appliances and every down jacket. He wanted everything, bro. The purple-haired classmate was freaking out, whispering that Gavin must have spent over $1 million already. She had never seen someone spend money so crazily. By now, she was sure Gavin was hiding the fact that he was a super rich kid all along. The green-haired classmate agreed and thought this was their chance. So both girls rushed over, getting excited to talk to Gavin. Yeah, a new bitch detected. Just as Gavin finished his shopping, the purple-haired classmate went up to him, struck a cute pose, and tried to be super friendly. She greeted him and acted like Gavin was suddenly way more handsome. You could just tell she was about to try something. Gavin, though, was thinking to himself that he had spent most of the money, but he was basically ready for the apocalypse. Now, there was something even more important he needed to do next. Suddenly, our boy noticed those two girls. Their names were Sharon and Jolene. Now, these girls looked sweet, but he knew the truth. In his past life, when the apocalypse came, Sharon and Jolene used their looks to form a gang of thugs and robbed people everywhere. He even remembered how he got robbed by them once. They took all his clothes and he almost froze to death. No way was he ever falling for their tricks again. But in this life, our protagonist played it cool. Sharon abruptly leaned in all flirty and asked Gavin why he was being quiet, and suggested they go have something to eat together. Jolene smiled too, because the two of them were already planning to make him spend a ton of money. Gavin said sure, and added a smile. Then he told Yaniel to take all the stuff home for him, since he had something else to do. Sharon and Jolene secretly thought that Gavin was such a pushover and that it was their time to get rich by draining his wallet. Sharon then found a fancy new restaurant nearby and said a meal there was at least $5,000 or $6,000. Since Gavin was suddenly a sugar daddy, they were ready to feast. Gavin just agreed. He acted super hungry and told them to hurry up because he was starving. Soon, all three of them stood in front of this tall, super shiny glass building. Jolene asked how Gavin liked it and pointed out how expensive everything must be inside. Sharon said they didn't bring just anybody here. But Gavin looked at it and just wanted to get inside for some food. Inside the restaurant, it was even fancier than outside. There were well-dressed people at every table. Gavin, Sharon, and Jolene sat down together. Jolene asked Gavin how he liked the food here. Gavin checked out the menu and said the dishes looked pretty expensive, but the girls just laughed it off and said it wasn't expensive at all. Sharon said that if Gavin wasn't going to order, the girls would choose all the most expensive stuff themselves. They ordered things like black gold caviar, fancy Wagyu beef, Antarctic lobster, and just pointed at whatever they wanted. An hour later, their table was totally covered in empty plates and wine bottles. Sharon stretched happily and said it had been a long time since she ate so well. Jolene and Sharon asked Gavin how he liked the meal. Our boy said the food was great and that he was super full, then got up and said he was going to step outside for a moment. But here was where things got interesting. He walked up to the front desk. The receptionist told him the bill was $18,800. She wanted to know if he was going to pay cash or card, but Gavin said he wasn't here to pay. Instead, he wanted the restaurant to prepare 100 tables of the same feast so he could pick everything up in 10 days. The receptionist nearly passed out from shock. Gavin even showed his card and said he'd pay in advance. Inside his mind, our protagonist remembered how, in the apocalypse, he had been forced to eat canned food every single day and totally got sick of it. Now, he was planning to order 100 big feasts so that, even when the world froze, he could still eat really well. He also believed he'd find some way to keep all that food fresh for a long time. Back at the table, Sharon and Jolene watched Gavin go and thought he was being good for paying the bill. They planned to make him buy them expensive handbags next, thinking this rich guy was the ultimate fool. But at the reception desk, after his crazy giant order was placed, our boy just waved and walked off. He told the restaurant the women at the table could pay the bill themselves. He didn't even look back. As he left, he thought to himself that he had pretty much finished spending the money from selling his house. Time to get more. He went straight to loan platforms on his phone and started borrowing money like crazy. He was walking down the street, just scrolling on his phone, feeling pretty proud. He had already borrowed 2.7 million from 36 different small loan apps, and there were still more places to get cash if he wanted. He really thought this was the perfect way to get rich before the world ended. Suddenly his phone rang. It was Sharon calling him. She was mad. She wanted to know where Gavin went, but Gavin only smiled and said that something had come up, and he was just heading home. Yet she was mad that Gavin left her and Jolene with a giant bill and demanded to know why he didn't pay. Our MC just asked why he should bother. He reminded her that she and Jolene were the ones who dragged him out to eat, and they were the ones who ordered all those super expensive dishes. He said it had nothing to do with him. Yeah, serves those two bitch right. Sharon tried to guilt him and said he wasn't a real man if he bailed on the bill. She complained about how expensive the food was. Gavin got a bit savage there and pointed out that he warned them, but they were the ones wasting money and now whining about the price. Honestly, dude, Sharon did this to herself. When Sharon started calling Gavin a broke loser, he just told her to ask the manager if he looked poor. After all, he ordered 100 tables of the exact same meal. Sharon didn't believe him at first, but when she looked at the receptionist, she confirmed that Gavin really did order 100 tables of food. Sharon's whole attitude changed in a second. She went from angry to desperate. She begged Gavin to come back and pay, figuring that if he could buy 100 tables, he could for sure cover just one meal. But our boy just hung up on her, thinking he wasn't about to spoil rotten people like her. Inside the restaurant, Sharon started freaking out more. She told Jolene that Gavin actually called them rotten idiots and refused to help. Jolene panicked too because they totally didn't have enough money to pay. The receptionist wasn't having any of their nonsense and just told them they couldn't pay later. Sharon finally decided to call a guy named Hunter for help. She planned to take revenge on Gavin no matter what. Meanwhile, our protagonist was out on the street and remembered something super important: the lottery. In his past life, he won $3,000 from the lottery with a lucky ticket around this same time. He then rushed to buy a bunch of tickets, thinking that if he hit the top prize, he could get plenty of money for his next moves. Of course, he still had to wait 2 days for the results. Hope he was feeling lucky. Later that day, Gavin met up with Yaniel at the warehouse. Yaniel seemed both upset and tired, grumbling that Gavin was out flirting and eating fancy while he had to do all the hard work moving boxes and loading supplies. He asked if his friend had any conscience left after all that. But Gavin said not to worry and promised he would make it up to him with some excitement that night. Yaniel didn't get it at all. He couldn't understand why Gavin was spending money insanely fast, filling the place with mountains of supplies. Our boy just repeated that when the Ice Age came, all this stuff would save their lives. He explained that people would freeze and starve, and food would be worth more than gold. He begged Yaniel to trust him one more time. Yaniel said if Gavin didn't seem so normal, he would have thought Gavin was absolutely nuts. He just could not believe a word about the coming apocalypse. But Gavin told him not to worry. Soon, Yaniel would see for himself. Suddenly, things got sketchy. 3 shady-looking guys blocked their path. They were thugs for sure. One of them asked if our boy was Gavin Clark. Gavin guessed right away they must be working for Hunter Walsh, who Sharon called after the restaurant disaster. The second thug, waving a baseball bat, told Gavin off for hitting on Hunter's girl and said a poor student like him had some nerve. Yaniel freaked out and threatened to call the police. But Thug 1 laughed and said he wanted to see if the police would get there before he broke their legs. Gavin calmly put his hand on Yaniel's shoulder and said there was no need to call the police. The boss thug was bald and swinging a baseball bat, looking super mean. He actually thought it was funny that Gavin wasn't calling the police and told him it wouldn't have made a difference anyway. Yaniel started to panic. He told the thugs that his dad was the boss of Parker's Building Materials, trying to pull some "my dad's important" card. He just begged them not to touch his friend, but the bald thug wasn't worried. He said they wouldn't mess with Yaniel, but Gavin was definitely getting a beatdown. Yaniel didn't back down though. He just grit his teeth, then stood in front of Gavin, ready to protect him. He even yelled at Gavin to run while he held them off. Bro, that's some real friendship. But the thugs didn't care at all. The blonde one told Yaniel to move, and the bald leader kept taunting them, saying they were dead meat for messing with Hunter. Then the bald thug swung his bat at Gavin. Yaniel was so scared, he yelled Gavin's name, but the man himself didn't even break a sweat. He easily dodged the swing and told the thug that he could tell they had never trained before. Savage. He then kicked the thug so hard in the stomach that the guy doubled over. Then, he grabbed the bat from him like it was nothing. The bald thug started to complain, so Gavin just smashed him in the mouth with the bat. All his teeth got wrecked. The other thugs totally panicked, thinking our boy was a serious beast. Now, it was Gavin with the bat, and the rest of the thugs circled him. He just challenged them, telling them to come at him all together. Those guys actually tried, but it didn't help. Gavin totally beat them down, swinging the bat left and right, knocking every single one to the ground. Yaniel couldn't believe this was even the same guy. In his head, he wondered if Gavin was still the friend he knew. How did he become a one-man army? In the end, Gavin stood over all the moaning, beaten-up guys. He asked if they finally had enough. The blonde thug gave up fast, saying they admitted defeat and couldn't take any more. But Gavin wasn't done. He told them to transfer him 100,000 each if they really had enough. The blonde thug was totally shocked. He said this was straight-up extortion. So our savage MC just hit him again to make his point. He told them if they didn't pay quick, next time he'd break all their legs. Suddenly, Gavin's phone buzzed with a notification. The thugs had sent him 600,000. That's the power of not messing with a dude who lived through the apocalypse. He thought to himself that this wasn't cruelty, just survival. He had seen guys like Hunter do the worst stuff ever during the apocalypse, so he didn't care how rough he had to be now. After that, he put his arm around Yaniel and told him to stop daydreaming, because he was going to take him somewhere cool. Yaniel was still buzzing from the fight, but he was down for the adventure. They went to this crazy nightclub with flashing lights, bumping music, and people dancing everywhere. Yaniel totally loved the vibe and said after the insane day they just had, he needed to chill and have some fun. Gavin walked up to the bar and asked to see someone named Mr. Jacobs. He said he was there to make a delivery. The bartender told him to hold up a second while he made a call. Suddenly they were surrounded by these serious-looking guys in suits and dark sunglasses. Now, our goat friend started freaking out. He thought he just wanted a little fun, but he did not expect this kind of trouble. He told Gavin that his heart was beating so fast, but not in a good way. He kept asking where they were and what on earth they were doing. I mean, who wouldn't be scared with all those tough guys around? Then someone shouted that Mr. Lowe was here. That sounded important and scary at the same time. Suddenly, even more bodyguards came closer and made a wall so thick, Yaniel probably felt like an animal in a zoo. An old man stepped forward. Yep, this was Mr. Lowe, and nobody wanted to mess with him. Mr. Lowe looked at the two guys and asked if they came to make a delivery, because he had never seen their faces before. Gavin said that it was their first time meeting, but he heard that Mr. Lowe was expecting some goods, so he showed up. Mr. Lowe glanced at their empty hands and wondered where the goods were, since they clearly had nothing. Our boy pointed at himself and Yaniel and said that the goods were inside them. Dude, what? Mr. Lowe just laughed like this was the weirdest thing he ever heard. He said that usually, people don't deliver themselves as the goods. Yeah, I guess that was true. But then, things got nasty fast. Mr. Lowe's face turned super serious, and all his bodyguards pulled out their pistols and aimed straight at Gavin and Yaniel. Dude, that escalated so fast. He told his guys to grab the two as prisoners, and of course, Yaniel panicked even more. He begged everyone not to do anything crazy, and said that his dad was kind of a big boss in town. He also shouted at Gavin, super confused about what goods they were even talking about. Gavin stayed calm, almost too calm for the mess they were in. He explained to Yaniel that Mr. Lowe was in the business of selling human organs, so the goods were actually the organs inside their own bodies. He told Yaniel not to panic, but honestly, what person wouldn't panic at that point? Yaniel lost it. He screamed about organs and wondered how anyone could stay calm about selling their body parts. Gavin talked right back to Mr. Lowe. He explained that they wanted to make a deal. If Mr. Lowe was buying, then they were selling. He even teased Mr. Lowe, as if saying that maybe he was too scared to buy. Mr. Lowe got extra mad and said that there was nothing in the world that he would not dare to buy. And you know what? Everyone seemed to believe him. Gavin then set the price. 10 million bucks for all his organs. But Mr. Lowe wasn't playing around. He said that 5 million was all Gavin could get because the police were cracking down right now. The price was just low, bro. Our boy agreed anyway, but only if Mr. Lowe paid the money first, and then he would give his body to him in 3 days. Wow, that was a totally insane deal. Mr. Lowe thought about it. Then he shook Gavin's hand and said they had a deal. He also warned him not to even try to run away, because he had 1,000 tricks to find him if things went bad. Right after that, a bodyguard gave Gavin a contract and a pen. Just like that, man. Gavin looked at it and asked for another one so that Yaniel could sign too. Yaniel freaked out again and said that he definitely was not selling his organs. But Gavin told the bodyguards that, yes, Yaniel was selling too. Yaniel tried to argue again. He explained that he didn't need the money and just did not want to do this. But the bodyguards had no patience. One of them shoved the contract into Yaniel's hands and even aimed a gun straight at his head. The bodyguard only said that he should stop talking and just sign the contract. Man, imagine having Gavin as your friend. I would kill him on the spot. After that insane nightclub, Gavin and Yaniel finally got out. They started walking away from the club's entrance, but Yaniel looked super mad and also scared out of his mind. He told Gavin that he just wanted some excitement, but instead, how the fuck his own friend had actually sold him. Yep, Yaniel definitely thought Gavin was the worst bro ever, but our MC acted like it was no big deal. He said that his friend should not sweat the small stuff and told him to get ready for another adventure. Like, wow, Gavin was way too chill about almost getting them both killed. Yaniel could not believe it. He said that this was not some silly little thing. He was shaking because he knew about Mr. Lowe. Everyone in the city said that Mr. Lowe was a big gangster, a really bad guy with connections everywhere. He thought they only had 3 days left before Mr. Lowe would literally tear them apart. Gavin told him that Mr. Lowe had done a ton of horrible things. He said the guy had no heart at all and had sold who knew how many human organs. But he also said that, in 3 days, Mr. Lowe would be dead. Whoa. Gavin sounded super sure about that. Yaniel was losing his mind. He asked Gavin if he was actually planning to fight Mr. Lowe. He did not believe it one bit, and said Mr. Lowe was not some weak guy like Hunter's thug friend. He also pointed out that all of Mr. Lowe's men had real guns, not toy ones. Gavin just smiled and told him to come along, saying he was about to show him something so big it would feel like the world was ending. That was either awesome or terrible news, depending on how you looked at it. Next, they showed up during the day, in front of this massive, beautiful villa. Gavin talked to a real estate agent and said he only wanted to rent this villa and no other. Inside an office, Yaniel sat down with Gavin, looking pretty confused. He didn't get what was going on. Why would they need a villa now? Gavin said that there was something good in that villa, but, dude, he did not say what it was. Then, our MC started thinking back about his old life. He remembered that during the disaster, this villa had the fewest problems and the most food and supplies. He also remembered that something really special and important would show up here when everything went crazy. That was why so many people tried to come to this villa. And sadly, this is the place where he died in the last life, and he saw people doing things even worse than monsters. So, Gavin thought, if he died here before, maybe this villa was the start of his new life. Back to business. The real estate agent told our protagonist that the owner did not want to rent the villa. Yet Gavin was stubborn. He offered double the rent, then 5 times, and finally 10 times the normal rent. He even said he could pay for the first month right now. When the agent heard 10 times the rent, her eyes started shining like she just won the lottery. She swore she would get the villa for Gavin, even if she had to call the owner dad and get on her knees. Okay, that was some serious dedication. Gavin said he had one condition. He wanted to fix up and completely redecorate the house. The agent said there was no problem because the place was pretty empty anyway. She was already getting out her phone to call the owner. When they left the office, Gavin and Yaniel walked outside and saw Xenia, that bitch again, and her mother. It looked like Xenia's mom was giving her a hard time, probably about Zach, that rich man. Yaniel spotted her and wondered why she was there. Gavin explained that it was easy. Zach owned a villa in this fancy community. Then things got awkward fast. Xenia saw Gavin and stormed over, looking furious. She accused him of stalking her, saying that she hadn't even punished him for last time yet. Her mom jumped in and called Gavin a simp, which was just rude. She told him that her daughter would never like a poor student like him and said that nothing he did would ever work. Dude, that was cold. Like mom and daughter, both of them are bitches. Thank God Gavin shot back and asked if they were idiots, because he had not been following them at all. Xenia's mom lost her temper. She called Gavin rude and shouted about college students having no manners these days. She threatened to tell the school about him, get him kicked out, call the cops, and even get him thrown in jail. She was going wild, for real. Our protagonist replied that if she was feeling like this, she might as well just give him the death penalty, since renting a house had nothing to do with her or stalking Xenia. Bro, this kid had no filter. The bitch started laughing at him. She mocked Gavin and said she knew he didn't have any money. She thought there was no way he could afford even one room in a villa like this, because the rent was at least $20,000 a month, and he probably had only a couple hundred to his name. Suddenly, the estate agent was grinning like she just won the lottery. She told Gavin that everything was settled and that the rent would be $25,000 a month. Xenia and her mother just stared at Gavin in total shock. It was like they could not even believe what they were hearing. In her head, Xenia's mom was freaking out and wondering if that poor kid actually managed to rent a villa at this fancy place. Meanwhile, Xenia acted like a queen. She told our boy that he must have rented the villa just to hang around her. She said it was useless and thought he had no chance, so he should just give up. Wow. Please slap her again, I beg you, Gavin. Well, Yaniel thought to himself that Xenia was a next-level, delusional slut. Gavin, on the other hand, thought the whole thing was more than just dumb, it was straight-up insane. Xenia's mom told her daughter to forget about Gavin. Even if he rented a villa, she said, it was only for $25,000 a month, and that was not enough for someone to become one of her daughter's simps. Then Xenia and her mom turned and walked away, acting like they did not care at all. The real estate agent talked business with Gavin and reminded him that, since he wanted to pay 10 times the normal rent, the first month would actually cost $250,000. Gavin just said he would pay right now, like it was nothing. At that moment, Xenia and her mom suddenly stopped and spun around so fast, you'd think they saw a ghost. They could not believe what they just heard. The bitch said Gavin was just putting on a show, and nobody was dumb enough to spend 10 times the rent for a house. She thought there was no way that poor orphan student could have that much cash. But Gavin was ready to blow everyone's mind. He held up his phone and showed the payment confirmation, 250 grand sent. Xenia and her mom just stood there like statues. Not a word, not a blink. That was a slap to the face, bro. The real estate agent was over the moon and told Gavin the villa was his. She said he could redecorate it any way he wanted and handed him the keys. Gavin told Yaniel it was time to bounce, and they walked right past Xenia and her mom, who still looked frozen. Behind them, Xenia's mom was in total disbelief. She started wondering if maybe they were wrong about Gavin all along. Maybe he was secretly rich. But Xenia was just confused and annoyed. She was sure Gavin was an orphan and said she would ask her friends to find out the truth. Later, Gavin and Yaniel were walking through the city. Our boy asked his friend if he knew the boss of Heaven's Rainbow Decor, the biggest renovation company around. Yaniel said that since his dad worked in the same business, he knew him. Gavin was happy and said he needed Yaniel's dad to make an appointment so they could get the villa ready. Yaniel thought Gavin was nuts. He just paid 10 times the rent for an empty house and now wanted to renovate it himself? What kind of plan was that? Gavin said Yaniel should stop asking and just set up the meeting. He promised everything would become clear tonight. Yaniel then checked his phone and said the meeting was a go. His dad had pulled some strings, so even though the boss was busy, he was coming personally just to meet Gavin. Gavin was stoked and told Yaniel he would thank his dad by sending him a whole truck full of instant noodles. Yaniel freaked out and said that was the worst gift ever because his dad did not eat that junk. But our protagonist said not to worry. He joked that Yaniel's dad would love the noodles soon. Inside Heaven's Rainbow Decor's office, a secretary was telling some people to wait because the CEO was on the way. Xenia and her mom were also there, talking. The fuck? I don't know why this bitch always showed up on my screen. Anyway, her mom told her that Zach was paying for their renovation, so it had to look super nice. Xenia said not to worry. This company was the best in the city, so they came to the right place. Just then, Gavin and Yaniel walked in. The secretary asked if they had an appointment. Xenia noticed Gavin right away and jumped up from her chair. She was so angry, it was almost funny. She accused Gavin of following her everywhere, even all the way to the renovation company. She said that if he thought this would make her like him, he was crazy. Gavin could only think one thing in his head. For real, how could they keep running into these two crazy ladies again? It was almost like they just could not escape them. Yeah, bro, that's what I said. Please stop your author from writing shit about her. Anyway, Yaniel tried to chill things out. He told Xenia that Gavin was also there to do a renovation, so she needed to stop making drama. But the girl just smirked like she knew everything. She said there couldn't be anyone as dumb as Gavin. He was trying to renovate a house he didn't even own. Man, this girl really liked to roast people. Gavin ignored her and talked to the secretary. He said his name was Gavin Clark, and he had an appointment. The secretary got all businesslike and told him to wait a second. That made Xenia and her mom freeze. They couldn't believe Gavin was actually doing a real renovation. But Xenia still thought he was probably just pretending to be rich. That's when the main boss of Heaven's Rainbow Decor, Mr. Zhao, came out. Now things got interesting. He asked where his appointment was, and the secretary pointed over to Gavin. They thought Mr. Zhao was coming out just for them, because Zach was so important or whatever. Xenia's mom even bragged to Gavin, saying this showed how different their social status was. She said her daughter was special because the big boss cared about her, while Gavin could just stand and wait in the background. Xenia stepped up and tried to talk to Mr. Zhao first, acting all confident, but Mr. Zhao just looked at her like he was confused. He asked who was Gavin Clark. Xenia said her name, but Mr. Zhao told her to step aside if she wasn't Gavin. Dang, bro, that was awkward. Then Mr. Zhao walked right past the stunned girls. He went straight to Gavin with a big smile and acted super friendly. Mr. Zhao told our boy he didn't expect him to be so young, and then invited Gavin and Yaniel to come talk in his office. Xenia and her mother were left standing there like someone just took their cake away. Xenia's mom started whispering to her, asking how Gavin could get treated so well by Mr. Zhao. Xenia was embarrassed, so she tried to explain. She guessed that maybe it was because Yaniel's family was powerful, since they were pretty well off. She didn't want to believe Gavin could have any big connections by himself. Inside Mr. Zhao's office, the mood totally changed. Mr. Zhao wanted to know about Gavin's plans. He asked what kind of renovation Gavin wanted. Our protagonist told him he wanted to redo a whole villa. Mr. Zhao didn't seem impressed. He said that fixing up a villa was easy and cheap for their company. Some budget jobs were just 5 or 600,000, and even the expensive ones were 3 to 5 million. He really thought this was just a small project. He told Gavin his design director could take care of Gavin's villa, but our boy pushed back. He wanted Mr. Zhao, the boss, to handle the job personally. Mr. Zhao said he was usually way too busy for small stuff, he only messed with giant projects. But Gavin told him he was actually a big project. Mr. Zhao sighed and asked Gavin for his budget. Gavin just grinned and said he planned to spend at least 30 million. Bro, Mr. Zhao's eyes almost popped out of his head. He could not believe it. 30 million for a renovation? That was next level. Mr. Zhao almost could not believe his ears. He had to check that Gavin really meant 30 million for the renovation, not 3 million. Gavin confirmed it, calm as ever. Yep, 30 million, bro. Right then, one of the directors rushed in, thinking he was going to handle this VIP client. But Mr. Zhao didn't even let him start. He waved the guy away and said that he was taking care of this project personally. He told Gavin flat out that for 30 million, the dude could just buy a whole new villa. He had no idea what Gavin was planning to do with an old one for that much cash. Gavin pulled out his blueprints. These were no normal house plans. Nope. They looked insane. Mr. Zhao checked them and almost yelled in surprise. He asked if Gavin was trying to build a fortress or a war bunker. Gavin kept it cool. He said if the budget was not enough, he could add even more money. He told Mr. Zhao that in the whole province, only this company could make his insane project real. The only requirement was that they finished it all in just half a month. Mr. Zhao was shocked again. He said that was super tough, but then he listed all the crazy stuff on those plans. A special water system, super strong air conditioning for freezing temperatures, high-end air filters, and even steel walls as thick as a small car. He said the villa would be so secure, even a tank couldn't break in. He told Gavin that this wasn't a house. It was like a place for surviving the apocalypse. Gavin just told him to go with it and pretend the end of days was coming. He even said he could pay 20 million right now, add another 5 million extra, and give the rest of the money 3 days after the construction was done. That was some serious business. Mr. Zhao was totally fired up. He agreed to do it. He told our boy that he would put all of the company's muscle on the project, work day and night, and build that crazy safe house in just half a month. After the meeting, Gavin and Yaniel walked out of the building. Yaniel was still in shock. He thought this renovation plan was nuts. 35 million to fix up a villa that wasn't even theirs. He told Gavin he was totally insane. But Gavin said pretty soon, money was going to be as worthless as trash. He told Yaniel to go home and convince his dad to get ready too. Yaniel actually was more worried about where Gavin even got all this cash. After all, even if Gavin and Yaniel sold themselves, they would only get 10 million at best. He told our boy that, unless this mysterious apocalypse was actually real, they were both doomed for life. As they left, guess who popped up again? Yep, that bitch Xenia and her mom ran right over to our protagonist. Xenia was full of sass. She said Gavin just wanted attention and challenged him to tell them how much he had spent on the renovations. Gavin blew her off and said it was none of her business. He also told her he was not trying to impress her at all. Xenia's mom just laughed at him. She bragged that Xenia spent a whole million on their own renovation and threw shade at Gavin for being poor. She wanted to show off what real spending power looked like, but Yaniel could not hold back. He blurted out that Gavin's renovation cost 35 million. That blew everyone's mind. Xenia started laughing like it was the funniest joke she ever heard, saying that maybe she would believe 500,000 but no way 35 million. Xenia's mom thought this was just bragging gone wild and said, kids these days would say anything. Gavin then added a little spice. He told Xenia that if he really spent 35 million, then she should call him daddy. Xenia did not believe a word of it. She told him she already asked around and knew Gavin used to own only one house, and if he sold it, at most, he'd get 3 million. She thought Gavin was just acting out so he would not seem like a loser. Xenia's mom even doubled down. She promised out loud that if Gavin really spent 35 million, she would call him daddy too. That's when the secretary raced outside and handed Gavin the contract he left behind. Xenia's mom snatched it from her, ready to expose him in front of everyone. Then she started reading the contract. But once she saw the number on the page, her face went pale as a ghost. She was shaking all over. Xenia asked if the number was something small, but her mom could barely talk. She whispered in a trembling voice that, yes, it really was 35 million. The mom suddenly shouted that this document must be fake. Next to her, the secretary backed up Gavin, saying the contract was real for sure because their boss, Mr. Zhao, personally signed it. The secretary even warned Xenia's mom that if she kept throwing around fake rumors, the company might take her to court. Dang, nobody was playing today. Gavin just smiled and asked Xenia's mom to call him daddy, since they had both promised it. Xenia's mom lost it. She was so mad, she shouted that she was much older and would never do that. But bro, Gavin was done messing around. He suddenly slapped Xenia's mom hard across the face, sending her reeling. I mean, dude, that was intense, and I was super happy about it. Don't blame me. Xenia ran over, all panicked, to help her mom. Yaniel couldn't help himself. He said that slap was super satisfying and that the old lady kinda deserved it. Gavin just told his friend it was time to go. As they walked away, Xenia started screaming her head off at Gavin. She yelled that he was crazy. She would never forgive him for humiliating her mom like that, and she told him he'd regret it. But Gavin and Yaniel didn't even look back. That night, Gavin and Yaniel stood outside the villa that Gavin had just rented. Yaniel was confused. He didn't get why they were there again, especially so late. Our MC told him it was time to prove the apocalypse was coming. Yaniel, shivering with arms wrapped around himself, thought Gavin had to be losing his mind. And what the fuck? It was the middle of summer, but he was freezing. Why the weather was super weird. He was getting annoyed. He said they'd been waiting in the dark for 2 hours, and if nothing happened soon, he was out. Gavin just said it was almost time. Then, suddenly, a bright light streaked across the sky. Gavin said it was here. Yaniel just thought it was a shooting star, but our boy explained that before the real apocalypse started, there would be lots of warning signs like super cold nights and more shooting stars. These weren't normal. They were hints that the big end of the world event was coming. Before Yaniel could answer, he saw the shooting star coming right at them. He totally freaked out and started running, thinking the meteor was going to squash them both like bugs. Gavin, though, faced the meteor head-on and seemed super hyped about it. He explained that these shooting stars were actually special opportunities. Whoever grabbed them could awaken a superpower. He remembered that, in his past life, a bunch of these stars fell in the neighborhood before and after the apocalypse. Because of that, some people with crazy abilities ended up living here, and that's what made the villa area turn into a survivor base in the future. Yaniel kept yelling for Gavin to run and shut the bullshit, but Gavin just stood there. Suddenly, as the meteor kept coming closer, our boy ran to it. Looking at how the meteor hit Gavin, Yaniel was sure his friend had just been crushed to death by a giant rock. But, surprise, the light faded, and Gavin was floating in the air like some superhero. He was surrounded by buzzing golden energy. Gavin found out, right then, that his skill was having his body's strength boosted by 5 times. It didn't sound like the craziest power for a doomsday, but it was definitely enough for now. He then floated down and landed on the ground as the golden light faded. Yaniel stared at him, totally stunned. Gavin asked if he believed him now. Yaniel just stuttered and wondered how Gavin had survived. Our boy told him that not only was he fine, but now he had super strength. Yaniel didn't believe it. He said Gavin didn't look different at all. So Gavin just reached over with one hand, picked Yaniel up, who weighed over 200 pounds, and held him in the air like he was a backpack. Yaniel freaked out, flailing and shouting. He could not believe a huge dude like himself was picked up with just one hand. Bro, the story keeps getting better. I like how we have superpowers now. Anyway, Yaniel then asked Gavin what he was even doing. But then, with a big happy grin, Gavin jumped off the roof. He was still holding Yaniel. Dude, what was he thinking? Of course, Yaniel screamed as they fell, and he told his friend not to throw his life away. It was totally insane. But when they landed, bam! There was a big shockwave on the pavement, but guess what? Both of them were totally fine. Not even a scratch, bro. Yaniel kept his eyes shut, but then he realized he was okay. He was so surprised, and he thought that was crazy. Gavin just smirked at him, basically saying that Yaniel had to believe him now. Yaniel said he believed Gavin for real this time. After all, Gavin had jumped from 10 meters up and didn't even get hurt. That was impossible for a normal person, but his friend made it look easy. Meanwhile, over at Zach's villa, things were getting messy. Xenia and her mother were looking out the window. Xenia's mom asked what Xenia was seeing, and Xenia told her that she saw something like a shooting star. She said the thing landed close to the house where Gavin was living, but Xenia's mom was not impressed. She said that nothing was special about a shooting star, and she even joked that it would be better if the star smacked Gavin on the head. That way, she wouldn't have to see him every day and get annoyed. Xenia gave a sneaky smile and told her mom not to worry. She said Zach was coming back soon, and their problems with Gavin were not finished yet. She said if Zach found out Gavin was living here, things were going to get rough for him. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Xenia's mother answered, and there was Zach. He had just come back, and Xenia's mom called him Young Master Zach. Zach wanted to know where Xenia was. Suddenly, the bitch called out, saying she was over there. Zach walked over to her, and he looked super greedy. He told her to hurry up and shower because he said he was feeling super pent up from the last few days. Then, out of nowhere, he slapped Xenia's ass. It was pretty awkward because Xenia's mom was still standing there. She tried to speak up, but Zach just got annoyed and asked her why she was still there. He told her to go boil some water. Xenia told Zach not to rush and that she had some news for him. She said Gavin had moved into the neighborhood too. Zach got really mad when he heard this. He could not believe that crazy dude would even show his face nearby. Xenia's mom jumped in and told Zach that Gavin only came here to get close to Xenia and that Zach had to get rid of him. Zach nodded and said he would call someone right now. He wanted Gavin to seriously regret ever messing with him. Wow, drama alert. Meanwhile, in the boxing club, the boxing king was in the ring, and he was big and scary, but the Mohawk is so funny. Zach called him on the phone. He called the Mohawk man and told him he had a job, take care of someone, and he would get $200,000 for it. That was a lot of money, just to mess someone up. That man talked on his own phone and said he understood. He promised Zach that he would get back to him in 2 hours. He then finished the call and looked at his opponent. He said he had a job to do and he didn't want to mess around anymore. But his opponent got super angry. How dare a rookie mock him? He told the Mohawk man that he was about to lose, and he seemed super confident. But suddenly, the Mohawk man, by the way his name is Biao, threw a punch, and boom. It hit the opponent so fast and hard that the opponent fell straight to the mat. Knocked out in one punch. Blood everywhere, bro. People in the crowd just went nuts. They could not believe what they saw. Everyone started talking about it. They asked if Biao was really a rookie, because they had never seen someone beat the underground boxing champ in one hit. People were saying that maybe Biao was going to be the new king of underground boxing. Back to our boy, now Gavin and Yaniel were just chilling inside their empty villa. The whole place had no furniture, just hard floor and silence. Both of them were drinking canned sodas, trying to relax after all the wild rooftop stuff earlier. Gavin started talking about how this boring setup was actually kind of like what it would feel during the start of the Ice Age apocalypse. For real, he was saying that soon it was going to get way worse for everybody. Yaniel thought that was pretty harsh and kind of sad. He said he never expected that humanity would ever be in such big trouble. But what could he do, right? Gavin then asked Yaniel if he knew what he wanted to do now, since things were getting so serious. Yaniel was feeling super lost, so he told his friend he would listen to whatever he said. He decided he would just do anything Gavin wanted. So our protagonist told him the plan was simple. Yaniel had to go back home and sell out his own father first. Oof, that was cold. Yaniel looked kind of nervous about this. He admitted that his dad had a lot of money and things, but he said it would be impossible to convince his dad to believe in some coming apocalypse. He thought his dad would just say he was nuts. But Gavin was super clear. He said that in just half a month, money would mean nothing, like totally worthless paper. The only important thing would be supplies and survival gear. He said if Yaniel's dad was the richest guy in the world, it wouldn't even help him. Yaniel looked like he was about to go for it anyway, even if it meant his dad going crazy or even beating him up. He said he was ready to bankrupt the family to get supplies and was about to leave right then and there. But suddenly, Gavin raised his hand and just told him to stop talking. Something felt wrong. Yaniel asked what was going on, but Gavin said he felt there were people outside, right now, surrounding the villa. Oh snap! Outside, things were looking rough. Biao, that scary red mohawk boxer from before, was out there leading a whole gang of tough-looking dudes. One of them was even holding a giant sledgehammer. He told Biao the whole house was surrounded and there was no way Gavin and Yaniel could run. Biao looked happy about that and ordered them to smash down the door. The thug tried to hit the front door with the sledgehammer, but suddenly the door opened itself and that thug was knocked over. Gavin and Yaniel walked over nonchalantly and faced these gangsters head-on. Gavin wanted to know who these people even were. Biao noticed that Gavin had spotted them, and he wondered if he was some kind of trained fighter too. Gavin recognized Biao right away and called him by name Duan Hubiao. Biao was kind of surprised Gavin knew him, but here's the thing. Gavin explained in his mind that Biao was kind of famous after the apocalypse started. This guy got some pretty good luck and power in those early days. He was stronger than most folks, but at least he still had a bit of a conscience, unlike a lot of crazy people out there. Biao got right to the point. He said Zack sent him to beat Gavin up. He tried to sound nice about it, saying that if Gavin just gave up and lay down, he would only break a few bones, and he might have to stay in bed for half a year. Can you believe that? Some offer. But Gavin just smirked. He said he wouldn't make it hard for Biao either. He told him to just get lost. That made Biao totally mad, and he wanted to show Gavin just who was boss. Biao rushed at him with a huge punch aimed right at his head. But our boy was way too fast. He dodged it like it was nothing, thinking that Biao was too slow. Biao couldn't believe it and tried again with another big punch. But Gavin just blocked it like a pro and punched Biao super fast in the side. Bang! Biao hit the ground hard, even though he was supposed to be the champion underground fighter. The other thugs could not believe what they just saw. One of them said their boss, Biao, was knocked down by Gavin. Another guy said something had to be up because Biao had just beaten the underground boxing champ in one punch. There had to be something weird about Gavin. Gavin asked Biao if he was ready to give up now, but Biao wasn't going to quit that easy. He struggled to his feet and said there was no one in the world who could make him surrender. But before Biao could even finish getting up, Gavin smashed him again with another punch, sending him back down hard. Gavin was standing over him looking like a total boss. He wanted to know if Biao was ready to give up. But Biao said there was no way he would ever surrender. He thought it was crazy that he couldn't fight back, but he still refused to admit defeat. That's some serious tough guy energy. But our protagonist said it would actually be boring if Biao quit that easily. He then told him that if Biao did one thing for him, he could give him a way to save his sister. Now that got Biao's attention. He jumped up so fast and just grabbed Gavin's leg. He was super shocked that Gavin even knew his sister was sick. For a second, it flashed back to when Biao was in the hospital. He was sitting by his sick sister's bed, probably worried sick about her. Gavin said that not only did he know the sister was sick, but he also knew it was a really bad illness that couldn't be cured. He knew that Biao only fought in dangerous underground matches for money to help pay for her treatment. That was a hard life, bro. Biao was totally stunned. He realized Gavin knew everything about him, even deep secrets. He asked if Gavin could really save his sister. Gavin told him he was the only person who had any idea how to do it. He said it was Biao's choice to believe him or not. This time, Biao decided to trust him. He said that Gavin already beat him, so now he believed him. He was ready to do whatever Gavin needed. So our boy told him to go find Zack and give him the beating of his life, so bad that Zack would have to stay in bed for 2 weeks. He said to make Zack cough up as much money as possible. The more, the better. Biao took a moment, but then he agreed. He told his crew to follow him, and together they took off, on a mission for payback. One of the thugs asked if Biao really believed what Gavin said. Biao answered that he had to believe it, because he would do anything for even a small chance to help his sister. He said it was time for business. Meanwhile, Zack and his shitty act are now doing an inappropriate thing with the bitch Xenia. He was sure Gavin should be in the hospital by now. Xenia said he was terrible, and they seemed to be having a moment. But suddenly there was a loud banging on the door. Xenia's mom got mad and wanted to know who the heck was interrupting him in the middle of the night. But as soon as she opened the door, Biao and his tough crew were right there. Biao didn't waste any time. He pushed the mom aside like she was nothing and told her to get out of the way. Xenia's mom tried to scold him, but Biao just smacked her and she stumbled away. Yep, Biao was not kidding tonight. Zack saw Biao and thought he was just there to finish the job. He tried to play cool, saying he had 200,000 ready for him and that he didn't need to show up in person. But Biao wasn't there for the cash at all. He punched Zack in the stomach so hard that Zack doubled over in pain. Xenia looked super shocked and was freaking out. Zack started yelling, asking why Biao was hitting him. But Biao just ignored him and told his crew to get Zack. All the thugs surrounded Zack and started beating him down. Zack tried to beg for mercy, saying he would give them any money they wanted. He even threatened Biao, saying that his family would hunt him down if they kept this up. But the punches kept flying. Biao finally told everyone to stop. One of the thugs thought this was just Zack getting what he deserved. Then Biao said something wild. He told the thugs that Big Bro Clark said to hang Zack up and beat him some more, just string him up like a punching bag. Zack was terrified, and he started freaking out again, asking who this Big Bro Clark was and if it was actually Gavin. Man, Zack was really wishing he never messed with Gavin, and Biao's crew was only getting started. Bro, this night was absolutely wild. So much chaos.